Glenn Diesen is a professor of international relations at University of Southeastern Norway. Glenn is joining us from Oslo. Welcome to WION The World. Now that it has been confirmed that Yevgeny Prigozhin is dead, what happens next? What do you predict the future of the Wagner Group will look like?
Well, I expect that once the Russian investigation is over and Moscow effectively makes a statement about what it sees as what has happened, if it was an accident or a sabotage of the plane, I guess we could get more information from this. But until then, I guess the speculations will continue to circulate. Was it the Russian government? Was it rogue elements of military, the Ukrainians, the Americans, other NATO countries? So this will still be uncertain. However, I think it has a very damaging impact for Wagner. Perhaps in the long run, it will help to create a more stable Wagner, which has stronger loyalty towards the government and again, a bit more under control and with clear chain of command and loyalties. But in the short to medium term, it probably will cause a lot of chaos, which is why this has been can be considered to be damaging for Russia as well, because they really need Wagner now to enter the war, and they have other missions for them as well. So there was 3 high-ranking Wagners on this flight, which all died. And this is, of course, creating some disruptions and furthermore, the uncertainties, the speculations around what happened. If the Kremlin could have a hand in it, of course, this is not very positive if you want to have order in your ranks. So it's an uncertain time coming ahead. So again, this is why it would, I guess, benefit Washington and Kiev the most at the moment. If you can have some distrust going across the lines between Wagner and the Russian government, that could be, assisted to stoke some discontent. And also Wagner is very popular among the Russian public, so it can create some divisions as well. So I'm assuming that Russia will try to get this under control.
Glenn, do you think Prigozhin was living on borrowed time since his failed mutiny?
Yes, possibly. This the Russian government was put in a bit of a dilemma, because on one hand, it doesn't look good if someone commits this kind of mutiny and actually starts to send its troops towards Moscow to put pressure on the military leadership. This is very bad. On the other hand, as Moscow made an agreement with them as well, saying that they wouldn't be harmed if they would make a deal. It would also be a negative thing if they did break this deal. So on one hand, it should have consequences. On the other, the word of the Kremlin has to mean something. So I think they were in a dilemma. So I guess that's why also within Russia, there's certainly many people who suspect that possibly Moscow was behind it. But again, so far it's wild speculations, but speculations can be quite harmful as well.
Glenn, let's talk about those speculations and something that you've mentioned in your last point there, that Russia or President Putin may have been involved in the killing. This speculation is still rife. Even a day after the plane crash, they were referring to him in the past. Should this incident be taken as a lesson or message from the Kremlin?
No, not necessarily, because I think this will be, overall, I think this is very damaging for the Kremlin. So I can understand the speculations because, of course, if you have to look at motives and opportunities. And in this, of course, motives is everyone. He had a lot of enemies, including Ukraine, NATO, and the Russian government, of course, as well, had reasons to be quite angry with him. But the opportunity was primarily on the Russian government side. That's why there's a good reason why you have these speculations. But my point is that the speculations alone is quite damaging. Keep in mind that only 24 hours ago, many people suspected that perhaps this was just a ploy by Prigozhin, because there were 2 flights by Wagner who took off, and one of them returned. So some were chattering on the social media. Perhaps this was just a ruse by Wagner or by Prigozhin to to be able to get away and well, disappear for a while. So again, this is the kind of speculations that's going around, and now this is confirmed that he's dead. So now you have new speculations. So I think this is why it's quite important to for Moscow now. They need to have some kind of transparency about their findings and their investigation. And again, if people don't have certain answers supported by evidence and transparency, people will run to speculations, and that alone will be very destabilizing for Moscow.
All right, I've been talking to Professor of International Relations at the University of Southeastern Norway, Glenn Deason. As always, thank you very much for your inputs and for talking to WION World is One today.
My pleasure.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.